Hi, I'm Christina, and this is a book review of Where We Go When All We Were Is Gone by Sequoia Nagamatsu. So this is a short story collection and it was published in 2016. So the reason I picked this one up is because I read his book last year, How High We Go in the Dark, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars and it was my absolute best book of 2024. And not only that, it is now one of my favourite books of all time. And this year I am trying to read more books by authors where I've loved one of their books. So I wanted to read more by him, and the only other thing he has published is this short story collection. And I was just really excited to read more by this author. I have to say, I think he's one of the most imaginative authors that I have ever read. And he has some just really interesting ideas. So this short story collection explores the themes of grief, death, and parenthood, and it's a really unusual little book. It's weird, it's absurd, it's whimsical at times, and it's completely unlike anything I've ever read before except his book. And I think you can really see the kind of foundations he lays for How High We Go in the Dark in this short story collection. So I will say I didn't like this one quite as much as his book. I gave that one 5 stars, as I just said, and I've given this one 3 stars overall. Some of these stories I found absolutely beautiful, moving and poignant, and some of these stories I really did not like at all. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag for me, to be honest. The ones I wasn't too keen on, sometimes it just wasn't my cup of tea, I didn't find it particularly interesting, or there were times when it was a little bit too graphic in certain senses and I was like, oh no, I didn't really like that one. But generally speaking, it feels like a very unusual collection. Like, I had no idea what was going to happen next when I was reading these stories. The first one kind of came out of left field for me, and then all of a sudden, all of these really different, unusual things kept happening. Now, it does have kind of a narrative thread through it, in the sense that all of these stories are inspired by Japanese folklore. And I knew a little bit about Japanese folklore before reading this book, such as the kaiju, but not very much. And honestly, I did find it really interesting. They have some really interesting, unique, imaginative kind of ideas in their folklore. But otherwise, it does feel very strange sometimes, and it is difficult to see maybe why it was kind of ordered in the way that it was. It does feel like it jumps around on the page quite a bit, and there are times when you'll explore one type of folklore and I might expect to come back to it perhaps, and then we don't explore it again and we just explore things completely different. But yeah, very unusual, very absurd at times, and like I said, it does have the similar themes of kind of grief and parenthood and death, and it does have the kind of similar feel in the sense that it does feel absurd and it does feel kind of whimsical and weird and strange. But yeah, a very unusual collection, and genuinely, as I was turning those pages, I had no idea what to expect next. Almost anything could have been in the short story collection, and by the end of it, I would not have been surprised. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about what each of the stories kind of entail, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what this collection holds. There are 12 stories in this collection, and it really does cover a lot of ground. The first story is called The Return to Monsterland, and it explores a world with Godzilla, and I absolutely love this one. It is my favourite story in the whole collection, so for me it was an incredibly strong start to the book. The next one is called Placentophagy, and this is about a woman who eats the placenta after giving birth. The next one is called Rockakarubi, and this is about a man who can extend his neck. And then we have one called Girl Zero, and it was an interesting concept, this one. A girl dies, she drowns in a pool, and her parents kind of bring her back to life in the form of a creature, which is quite interesting, who has her personality and her likeness. The next one is called The Peach Boy, and as you might expect, it's about a boy who was born in a peach. And the next one is called The Inn of the Dead's Orientation for Being a Japanese Ghost. And again, as you might expect, it's about what happens when you die and you become a ghost and you go to this inn for your orientation to find out how to behave as a ghost. quite an interesting one, that one. The next one is called The Passage of Time in the Abyss, and this is about a grandfather and his grandsons who are on a fishing boat in a storm, and also a turtle that is a princess. The next one is called The Rest of the Way, and this is about a couple who are travelling the world after one of them has died. The next one is called Where We Go When All We Were Is Gone, which is obviously the title of the book. And this is about people who can live multiple lives, but you lose your sense of self, essentially, and it's people dancing in a street party. The next one is called Snow Baby, and it is about a baby made of snow. And the next one is called Headwater LLC, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This is about a company who has made the best tasting water in the world, and they have done this by using a mythical creature called a kappa, which has water in its head, and I really, really enjoyed that one. And then the final story is called Kenta's Posthumous Chrysanthemum, and this is about a family who creates fireworks. So in terms of which ones I like the most, The Return to Monsterland, absolutely love that one. And the Headwater LLC, really enjoyed that one. I also liked the Inn of the Dead's orientation for being a Japanese ghost, and I think they were my favourites. I also really liked The Rest of the Way. That was quite an emotional, moving one. Now, there was a couple I wasn't so keen on. I wasn't really into Pleasantophagy or The Peach Boy or Snow Baby, or a couple of others. So really, there were 3 here that were really, really strong. I really enjoyed them, and there was a few that really weren't my cup of tea, and then there was a few that aren't particularly memorable for me. So yeah, I had a good time reading it, and I'm really glad that I did. And I will say, if you haven't read anything by him before, I would absolutely highly recommend that you read How High We Go in the Dark. It is absolutely brilliant. I loved it so much. It's so beautifully written. It's so imaginative. It's so unique and innovative. I've genuinely never read anything like it. And it's kind of science fiction, and it explores so many different things. Honestly, I thought I was reading a book about one thing, and then he just took it to a whole new level, and I was just absolutely amazed in the direction that story took, which is why it was my best book of the year. I had such a good time reading it, and some just really interesting, imaginative things. Some things that are really dark, but you could absolutely see happening in the world. But yeah, it's such a good book. I do have a book review on that too, just to give you a little bit more about it, which I will link down below, just in case you would like to see that. If you have read this one, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you've read How High We Go in the Dark, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one too. And I'm really looking forward to reading genuinely whatever he publishes next. This one, a little bit of a mixed bag for me. Some of them brilliant, some of them not so much, but I still had a fun time reading it. And honestly, as I was turning those pages, I had no idea what he was going to introduce to me next. And that's always quite fun, to be honest. I have no idea where an author's going to take you. So yeah, had a decent time with it. So thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you've liked it, and please do subscribe if you'd like to hear more of me talking about books. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.